Hey, what's up? It's Dan Riccio and Randip Janda as draft week is upon us, Randip, and we're wondering, feels like the entire NHL is wondering what Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford are up to. What are the Canucks up to on draft week? Are they going to be buyers? Are they sellers? What would you categorize the Canucks as, Randip?
Yeah, there's been a thought that Jim Rutherford would be Trader Jim and all of these things are going to happen. I think some of that comes to fruition this week. But I don't think they're going to be buyers. I don't think they're going to be sellers. I think they're going to be reshuffling. This is a team that doesn't want to take a step back. Lateral moves, I understand, may be in store for this team. But as far as what we're hearing about the Vancouver Canucks, what we've heard from Patrick Allvin and Rutherford, taking a big step back is not what they have in store. So what do they need? They need more speed in their lineup. They want to get younger. They want to get tougher. I expect those moves to be made. And also on the back end, you want to just be more dynamic. You want to be, have more puck moving defensemen. So there will be moves. Question is, are they going to be selling some big pieces? Potentially, but I expect them to acquire some pieces as well. So this is not a traditional buyer seller situation. It's a team that's probably looking to move off some pieces, but they're going to restock then.
Here's my thing about the Canucks right now, Randip, okay? They get Brock Besser back. They sign the deal that everybody kind of figured was the best pathway for both sides to end up on, right? And that's great. That's great. Awesome. They want to re-sign JT Miller. They've made that very clear. Even if the term and the money is going to be expensive, they're going to try and find a way to make it work. That's what they've said. Bo Horvat, they want to bring him back. We know Pettersson, Hughes, Demko, they are the untouchables. You can't bring back this core again. Like it's not a viable solution to bring back this core. We know it's not good enough. So what is that move they are going to make? And as much as, yes, they would like to keep JT Miller, I keep thinking about it and how it doesn't necessarily make sense with where this team is headed. Yeah, they want to do all these things. They want to remain competitive. At the same time, it's basically impossible to do all of these things in one offseason, especially when you have to figure out a piece as big as JT Miller. And I think that's where this week really is the focus. It's not necessarily the draft pick. It's all about JT Miller and what happens there.
Okay, let me tell you this, and I agree with you. I think if you come back with the same team as last year or the same core, that's a problem. That's disappointing to me. I don't think that's a well.
I'd rather they take a step back than come back with the same core, Randip. I'm tired of watching the same thing over and over again.
Me and you agree with that. Does the management team agree with that? That's where, what we've heard is that, hey, they don't plan on it. But we'll see. That's why this week is so important. In terms of JT Miller, absolutely. If you look at, that Kevin Fiala deal, I know that's been used as a comparison of a first-round pick, a pretty decent one at that, and Brock Faber. There's an extension to be had there. You'd expect some of the teams that are maybe interested in JT Miller might have an extension in mind as well. If you can get that potentially added into the deal, and that's a part of it, yeah, the price is astronomical probably. This is a really good package coming back the Canucks way. If teams try to match that or try to really get what the Canucks want. Now, I think it's extremely exciting from a Canucks fan's perspective, but now how much of a step back are you going to take if you trade JT Miller? To me, I don't think he's a 99-point player. Let's be real. There is a step back, but this team will still be competitive. They have Quinn Hughes, they have Elias Pettersson, they have Thatcher Demko, Brock Besser, Bo Horvat. Go through that list of players. So I don't think they're going to be a bottom 5 team or anything of that nature. They still be competing for a playoff spot. So I look at this and I say, I'm with you. I think you have to make that deal in terms of really stockpiling that talent, especially as there's no real discussion that a deal is close in terms of signing an extension. So you have to, one thing is for sure, you cannot start the season with JT Miller on an expiring deal. That is a risk. That is bad asset management. I don't think that's a smart move if they pursue that.
And they have Bo Horvat in a similar situation, also an unrestricted free agent at the end of next season, although all signs have been pointing to that a deal can get done there. Now with JT, look, they've got to hit a home run if they do end up making the trade. The Rangers, the Capitals have been really linked, although I don't see a package from the Capitals that's really all that enticing, if I'm honest. And the New Jersey Devils have entered the chat as well, according to Frank Saravalli yesterday here on Canucks Central. So that's a lot of really interesting teams. I see how New York or New Jersey can maybe make a package. but the Canucks have to hit a home run on that deal. And I don't think it's necessarily all about futures. They probably want a player in his young, early 20s that can maybe impact the NHL team as early as next year. But if you're going to make all these moves, if you plan on remaining competitive, okay, you're going to have to move out JT Miller maybe because of the contract. In any scenario that is possible, that any pathway you look at, the Canucks have to open up cap space somewhere if they are going to add the Miller Lite player that Elliot Friedman alluded to on 32 Thoughts. How can they create cap space, Randy?
Well, there are a couple of players on this roster that have value. They have a bit of salary as well. So you can look at exploring those options. And the ones with value, you talk about, hey, like a Tanner Pearson, right? This is a guy that was trending in a good, very good season before he got injured at late on in the season. So is there a way that you can take his $3 million plus salary and turn that into an asset, turn that into A, cap room, and B, potentially even a draft pick this year or next year? That is one guy I look at. Now, he's a useful player. Are there other players on the roster that haven't been all that useful? And is there a way to offload those contracts? And Jason Dickinson has been a big talking point in this city. Is there a team that values him at his $2.65 million salary? Fact of the matter is, you're not going to get much in return, but is there a salary dump type of move where you can maybe, just maybe, make a little bit of room there? The other one, and the big elephant in the room, or the giraffe in the room, whatever you want to call him, in Vancouver, it is Tyler Myers. $6 million for a defenseman that played well. And I don't think he was, there's a lot of criticism in Vancouver about the way he plays, but anytime you look at Tyler Myers, you also see that $6 million salary for the next 2 years. Is there a way, even with salary retained, maybe you're looking at a 25 or 30%, is there a way to move that salary off? And that's another player. He's a right shot D. There's value in the market. The only reason I'm moving him is if you've got a better right-hand shot option coming in via trade or via free agency. I don't see it in free agency. Is there somebody that the Canucks can target? And that makes Tyler Myers a bit redundant. That's one way I look at it. But remember, right shot D, having somebody in place who can play better than Tyler Myers is going to be important here. So that's the one guy I look at. $6 million salary, only if you can upgrade the position.
This is why it's so difficult, because you want to do these things, but you don't want to take any steps back. It's too hard to accomplish all of these things at once, Randip. And Patrick
Being a GM ain't easy. It ain't an easy job.
It's so far so good on Patrick Allvin front, but he hasn't had any big moves. The one move I do look at that Allvin made that hints a little bit towards what the offseason may look like. They make the miraculous move of getting rid of Travis Hamonic's contract for a third-round pick, and then they immediately flip that pick, or another third-round pick, to get Travis Dermott in place here in Vancouver. It's a move where maybe this player ends up being better than Travis Hamonic, fits more into the mold of what Patrick Allvin wants to build. All of those things are true, but we don't just want the cap space. We're going to try and do something with it if we do open up that cap space. So that's a big part of this Canucks offseason as well. And as for the draft, first round pick, they're at 15th overall. Randip, I'm just convinced they're taking Liam Ogren or maybe Noah Ostlund, any one of the Swedish players that is there at 15th overall. That's where Patrick Allvin is going. Okay,
usually a pretty good bet. I will say Liam Ogren looks like an absolute beast of a young man as well. 6 foot, 200 plus pounds. So, hey, if you're picking a Swede, I like the Liam Ogren angle there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that the Canucks could go. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade down either, if there's an opportunity there. The Canucks haven't had a lot of draft picks in the last number of years, as we know, with Jim Benning going all in for so many years. But they need to add picks. They need to add prospects. That's another big part of this offseason, Randip, is they don't just want to go all in for 1 year. They want to try and be building something that's a little bit more sustainable than what they've had here in Vancouver.
Well, this is the first pick for the Patrick Allvin regime. So I think based on the way that this draft looks out, they've got it's a pretty, I wouldn't say deep top 60, but there's quality players in the top 60. We know there's the one tier at the top of the draft, and then you can start to get into that second and third tier. And then, essentially from pick, you could probably say 12 to 60. There's some variance, there's some extreme variance. And I think that's to the benefit of the Canucks, because you could trade down to the late 20s and try to get a second round pick and try to add a little bit. But also that pick 15 matters. Remember, Jack Rathbone is really the only prospect that they have coming up. Danila Klimovich is a good young player, but he's got a long way to develop. They actually need players and high quality players in the system. So when I look at pick 15, I look at a player that should be selected. They're going to have some pretty good options, and we all understand it's based on who's on your draft board, who's available, and what happens before you with the first 14 picks. But I look at that 15 spot, and I understand there's an ability to move down. You don't want to move up at this point in time if you're the Canucks. But they need a quality player there, Dan. This is not an organization that can take chances. The first pick with this regime needs to hit, and 15 is a decent spot because there will be players, whether a Kevin Korchinski makes it that far, whether it's a Liam Ogren, whether it's Owen Pickering, or go through the list. There's a number of individuals that could be in that spot. This organization needs a player to add to their system, even if it's 3 years down the road of making it to the NHL. They need bodies, they need depth.
Yeah, I know they won't draft for need necessarily. Best player available has been the mantra, but we'll know if they do select at 15 and maybe they force a right shot D there, because I just don't see that player being available in that spot. So we'll know pretty quick the strategy of how Patrick Allvin sees the NHL entry draft. What do the Canucks do here on draft week? What do you think they should do? Should they trade JT Miller? Do you want to see them re-sign him? Let us know in the comments. We'll respond to as many as we can. Enjoy draft week, and we'll see you in the next video.